Hey, Jim here from the IYCA, and I like to answer emails or at least respond to questions from emails, especially when when I get a lot of the same questions. I like to do it on a video because once I start hearing the same kind of questions a couple times, I figure, well, more people probably have that kind of question and want to hear more about it. I can also go into a lot more detail here. So just this past week or so, I think it was 3 questions about programming for kids, and it came out. Some of them were from 2 of them were from parents, and as I dug deeper into it, they were looking for programs to train their kids at home, which is awesome right now. And I was asking more questions, and it turns out they were all between 10 and 14 years old. And there were multiple kids in each conversation, and I think 3 of them were baseball players, and 1 was soccer and basketball. And they were looking for more sport-specific programming. They wanted to know what programs that the IYCA had that they could purchase and follow that were specific for those sports. I'm not sure that they really loved my answer, but I want to make sure that we understand kind of what's appropriate for kids at different developmental levels. So between the ages of about 11 or 10 or so and 13 years old, that is a really important time in an athlete's development to especially develop a strong foundation of basic movements and basic skills and understanding how to train properly. Up until that point, so up until about 10 or 11 years old, most of what athletes are going to be doing should be pretty general in nature. And when I say general in nature, I mean they should have a lot of variety. So they should be running and jumping and hopping and twisting and turning and rolling and shuffling and skipping and galloping, all the fundamental motor skills. They can be crawling and crab walking and walking on their hands, and carrying things and climbing things. Things that make athletes move and address all of their developmental needs. And we've had other conversations in the IYCA about the developmental needs, but we're talking about things like spatial awareness and auditory awareness and learning how to grab things, tactile awareness, proprioception, those kind of things. A lot of things that go into athleticism, and the programs for kids at those younger ages, they can have some, I'll call them training involved, but most of it is going to be playing. And whatever training that you're going to do should feel to kids that age like it's playing. So it could be follow the leader and obstacle courses and kind of throw things in between drills. So if you're practicing basketball, maybe you do a couple basketball drills, and then you set up a hurdle and you hop over it 10 or 20 times. And then maybe you have them dribble through an obstacle course. So they're thinking it's basketball related, or they take 5 shots and then they have to run down the court, and you time them and you see how fast they can go. Kids love to be timed on things. But from about 11 to about 13 or 14 years old, that's when training, a little bit more structured training, starts to come about. So during that time, just because an athlete at 11 or 12 years old is playing baseball doesn't mean that he needs to be doing things specifically for baseball. Those athletes still need to have that wide foundation. The getting specific and fine-tuning is going to come much later. At that time between 11 and 13, they're going to need to learn how to do things like squat and hinge and push and pull and stabilize and brace themselves, to control external external resistance. So learning how to control a dumbbell or a barbell or a band or a kettlebell, so that it's not in control of them. They can manipulate that object, that weighted object. They can learn how to slowly progress rather than just grabbing a weight and doing it a bunch of times and then throwing it down and moving on. They can learn about systematic progressive overload, which is going to be the key to their strength development throughout the rest of their career. So it's important that you teach them some good habits. That doesn't mean it needs to be militant in nature, but there should be some structure. So they can still be doing all of their sports stuff. So your baseball player, for example, can still go out and play baseball, and maybe after the game, you have him go through a routine. They can go out and play in the backyard, and they can still do those obstacle courses and whatever they think is fun. And I encourage athletes at that age to be doing multiple activities. So parents or coaches, if you have a baseball team or a baseball player in your house, it is okay to have them play soccer for 5 minutes or to shoot baskets as part of a warm-up or just for fun. It's okay to throw a football around. In fact, for a lot of young athletes, throwing a football is much safer than throwing a baseball really, really fast. The speed and the power and all of that is going to come later, but you want to make sure that they're set up for success by being able at this age to develop some strength, to still be able to move really fast. So you're going to want to do things that are really quick in nature. So that could be things like fast running in place, short sprints. It could be like running up hills and doing obstacle courses and agility drills. It could be doing footwork drills where they're moving really, really fast. Things that get their arms and legs in sync and coordinated and get the nervous system firing really, really fast. The sprinting and throwing things and kicking things also helps with their ability to rotate, and that rotational sequencing takes time to develop, and until it develops, throwing an 80-mile-an-hour fastball can be very dangerous. It can be in some cases, because if they don't have that quick rotational sequencing, they're going to end up using their arm too much. Same with kicking. Kicking is very similar from a rotational standpoint. So make sure that you're doing things that will address that, like throwing medicine balls and picking things up off the ground and throwing them and trying to twist in the air and spin around and control other objects around them. After 14, athletes can start to train a little bit harder. It's going to be even more complex, but not all the time. Not if they haven't developed a base between 11 and 13. If a 14 or 15-year-old athlete starts strength training at that age, they're basically starting right where a 12-year-old may have started. They need to learn the basics and the fundamentals before they move on to something more advanced. Again, that sports-specific stuff that you may think that you're seeing professional athletes do, that's more fine-tuning. They already have that base. They're good athletes already. If you're working with younger kids that are in that age range of 10 to 13 years old, make sure that you're setting them up for that foundation so that they'll be able to take advantage of those sport-specific and fine-tuning type of routines later on. That's when they're going to need them more, when they already have that they've developed that base of speed and power and strength. So I hope that helps. Hope that helps you understand a little bit about how to program and what you're looking for, especially in that middle age group range. Just stick to basics, teach them things, make it slow, let them learn what it feels like to move weights and to run fast and to get a little bit tired and still to keep it somewhat enjoyable so that they want to do it later. All right, hopefully that helps, and I'll be back to answer more questions soon.